Welcome to the new year everyone, I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's celebration, and let's hope that 2018 is a better year for reality. However, this video is about video games, so we may as well say sod the real world. Last year for games was great, and let's hope it's the same if not better for this year. Though for gaming overall, 2017 was good, but it was also crap and full of the downright disgusting. I think it's become apparent that it's too much to ask for a year where money isn't the centre of thought for the already rich. Oh well, maybe EA will lose Star Wars this year and Activision will just keep pushing out the same old Call of Duty games. Anyways, the point is, last year was a decent year for gaming, and looking at this year's current lineup, it's hopeful it'll be the same if not better in 2018. Hello everyone, I am RedBeakRaven and welcome to a video where I'll be highlighting the games I think are worth watching this year, plus go through some honourable mentions towards the end. Right, quite a decent list in no particular order to get through, so let's get on with it, shall we? Starting off, and also more or less for me starting the year off, is Ubisoft's answer to an almost first-person Grand Theft Auto Montana, Far Cry 5. Looking back on the Far Cry series, it's been one that I've loved, disliked, and then stopped caring about altogether. Seems to happen with every Ubisoft series I like, sadly. However, Far Cry 5's setting alone, being in first of all America and then what appears to be a beautiful piece of territory with variety, Montana, had me intrigued from its reveal. The somewhat dark teaser and impressive CGI trailers took that interest further, and all the gameplay I've seen of this since last year has had me nod my head in positive motions. While I am keeping my expectations for this low and reserving my excitement for something else, this is a Far Cry title that appears to be one that will hopefully bring me back to the series. Not since the Far Cry 2 or 3 days have I actually been this interested in a Far Cry game. It has a decent premise, a man of the law looking to arrest a cult leader in the middle of a pretty lawless place. Also interesting, we design our own protagonist. Bit of a shift for Far Cry really, isn't it? It has some cool looking aspects, I mean the gun-fetching dog companion, flying an actual plane now, deadly rampages with farm equipment, weird ass missions, and of course, fishing. Oh, isn't it great to be alive? So yeah, there's a lot about this to be interested in, and chances are Ubisoft have scrapped some of their annoying tropes like bloody towers and oh my, there's less additions than Assassin's Creed Origins, but there's still, I mean, come the Jesus' bathrobe on Ubisoft. Anyways, Far Cry 5 shows a lot of promise, but also a lot of potential for it to fall into that, oh, it's just another Ubisoft open world game trap. Then again, considering the success of Ghost Recon Wildlands, maybe that's what people want. Or is it the focus on co-op that gives Ubisoft the edge with these? If that's the case, then if Far Cry 5 turns out to be a bit of a chore to play, at least it should offer some fun for those interested in a shared experience. Next on the list, and has been in these videos once or twice already, is Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now after quite a few delays, and there's still time for more mind you, this anticipated proper medieval realistic Skyrim as it's being called, should be coming very soon. At least the first game should be. Kingdom Come Deliverance launched in January 2014 as a Kickstarter project and gained popularity for its uniqueness, and is the first title from WARHORSE Studios founded by Martin Klima and Daniel Vavra, the writer of Mafia 1 and 2. The game is based on true events and takes place in the Kingdom of Bohemia, which was an imperial state of the Holy Roman Empire for quite a number of centuries. It's situated in modern-day Czech Republic and follows the story of a son of a blacksmith whose family is killed by an invading army. The title promotes the realism it offers in its non-fantasy open-world RPG setting. The game is particularly highlighted in the choices players are supposed to have in it and their consequences, and its combat system is very intriguing yet slightly worrying. While I'm all for the type of semi-realistic or realistic combat the game is offering, I can't shake the feeling of it being too realistic to the point where it doesn't feel great and or is frustrating. Plus, when I see it in action, it doesn't really captivate me, but you can only make so much of an opinion by sight alone. While this probably isn't an action RPG for most fans of that genre in particular, I'll be surprised if some people interested in this are not frustrated by some of its apparently complex systems. However, realism is something this game promotes and should give people some indication of what to expect in terms of gameplay. This is something history fans like me might like and appreciate just for its potential historical accuracy and being based on true events. The world looks gorgeous too. Personally, realism isn't something I crave in games, but this is a title I'll definitely continue to keep an eye on and I'm interested in playing. Now, I'm a huge Fallout fan. I really like the Stalker series, so chances are I'm a fan of the Metro games. Yes, indeed, I enjoyed Metro 2033 and Last Light, and am looking forward to Metro Exodus. Revealed at E3 2017, we got to see a great atmospheric yet not really gameplay trailer for this, and since then, information on the game has not been flooding out the gate to say the least. All we know at this point is that the game follows on from Last Light's redemption ending, essentially the good, or rather best one if you don't know. We're continuing to play as Artyom, who in this title sets out on a journey east across post-apocalyptic Russia in search of new life. A working locomotive train seems to play a main role in this new adventure, greener pastures will be explored as opposed to the mainly snowy areas explored in the previous titles, and we yet again supposedly have a journey full of excellent atmosphere and immersion, maybe even better than in the previous two. Now, I am looking forward to this, but I personally need to see some solid gameplay before I expel any excitement for it. Unless it's just a marketing pitch, 4A Games seem pretty confident in this title, calling it the greatest Metro adventure yet. And to be honest, 4A are not developers I'd expect anything less of. Last Light was a much better experience than 2033, and I could almost expect this to be better than the two combined. But I've had enough experience in regards to expectations and the like to know that it's unwise to think what exactly you think a game will actually be. Of course, time will tell, but so far Metro Exodus is already shaping up to be an interesting title, and if the little sneaky beaky release date reveal in the Game Awards trailer is indeed true, then hopefully there's a game to grab at the end of this summer. So with Marvel, or rather Disney, dominating cinemas across the world with its cinematic universe, it makes you wonder why the game industry isn't capitalising on the popularity of those films. Though, because gaming and film don't often go very well together, that's probably a good thing. Well, as long as the film isn't directly copying the game and vice versa, which is exactly what Insomniac Games are not doing with their newest title, Spider-Man. Now, considering the amount of success Spider-Man has had in gaming previously, I mean, Spider-Man 2 was ace, and the first Amazing Spider-Man wasn't too bad either, I feel it hasn't reached its potential. He is one of the superheroes out there that belongs in gaming just as much as he does in the comics and films. So far, it seems that Insomniac's Spider-Man game is taking the right direction towards that huge potential, and right now it looks bloody cool. The web slinging looks great and fluid, combat seems decent, hopefully the QTEs will be far and few between because let's be honest, who really likes them, and it appears to have a nice focus on the narrative containing some great characters, of which are fan favourites. The developers have talked about how they want players to be able to live out their Spider-Man fantasies, and how this is a game that is being made by fans for fans. I suppose that's reassuring, but manage your expectations. I am excited for this, would be more if it wasn't a PS4 exclusive, but you know. Yet I am awaiting some free roam gameplay, and for me to be any more interested in this than I am, I'm gonna need confirmation there's pizza delivery missions. That said, I hope this turns out to be, honestly, the best Spider-Man game to date, and one that inspires future superhero titles that can learn from it, as well as a sequel of course. Moving on from something as crazy as web slinging to something that's possibly crazier, and that is The Crew 2. Now, to be honest, had Ubisoft not caught my attention with the idea of not just driving cars, but also boats, bikes and flying planes, which I still think is ace because of the world we should get to explore, this wouldn't have made the list. The Crew was such a good idea, but a disappointing title. Though it was fun to just drive across America, it wasn't enough to keep me invested. With that in mind, I wasn't particularly bothered about the sequel when it was announced. That is, until E3 2017 when they showed off just how different it is, or could be. One thing I like about Ubisoft in this day and age is their apparent tendency to say, why not? If we can drive cars across America, why not boats or planes or F1 cars dropping from the sky and then transforming into a boat on the street? And I say to that, why not? Now yes, while that all sounds as cool as it does ridiculous, it doesn't mean the game will actually be good. And I'll admit, I'm only excited for this because I can choose how to traverse the United States, so I'm not looking enough at all the other aspects. However, if AC Origins and maybe Far Cry 5 are anything to go by, Ubisoft may actually be learning from their mistakes and feedback, and moving in a more favourable direction. It'll probably still have bloody pointless microtransactions though. So I do have a bit of faith in that The Crew 2 will be a better title, though not one without some of Ubisoft's rubbish. I mean, they're still selling season passes. Right, anyways, The Crew 2 looks promising, world looks nice, driving seems alright, etc. Now let's move on. Right, so on to something that's been in this type of video before, and therefore I won't waffle on too much about it, especially since it feels like we're no closer to a release than we were last year. Call of Cthulhu, the official video game. I mean, you could have come up with something the least bit original. However, to be fair, the new role-playing survival horror from CYANIDE Studio is apparently not only inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's short story The Call of Cthulhu, but is actually an adaptation of the 1980s pen and paper Call of Cthulhu RPG. There's not a lot I can say what I haven't already said about this. I'm a big Lovecraft fan. I've been waiting for a good game using his source material well since Headfirst Productions' 2005 Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth. And yes, I am running out of breath saying all of these long-ass titles. I like most of what I've heard about this. It looks creepy, I like the real deep psychological focus, and the fact CYANIDE are working with multiple writers that wrote scenarios for the old pen and paper RPG is reassuring about the game's story at the very least. So I'm looking forward to seeing and playing this, but despite me being a patient gamer, the wait is dragging on a fair bit, and I could easily criticise the way CYANIDE and or Focus Home Interactive have been handling the what little marketing they've done for this. Let's just say I think they announced the game way too early, but maybe the wait will be worth it, and I cannot tell you how much I hope so. So the next title on this list is one that I cannot believe I'm putting on this list because I honestly believe and yet don't believe it will come out in 2018. Though this is a games to watch list, not a games that are coming out this year watch list. Anyways, it is something that I am really excited for and feels like it's been in development for about as long as Money Milking Star Citizen has. It is, of course, as you may be able to tell from the footage, Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. Mount & Blade is an interesting open world action role-playing RPG series with an equally interesting story behind it. Despite the fact the series' go-to game is Warband, or what they call standalone expansion, what I call remaster if you will of the first Mount & Blade, and it's been a long while since that came out, this series continues to be popular, and as time goes on, it seems the anticipation for Bannerlord grows. Honestly, it's remarkable, but a possible testament to what Mount & Blade is for many people, and I myself can see why this series is successful in the way that it is. Warband is a game I regularly play and have played again and again for years, and it really needed a continuation with improvements and additions. Bannerlord looks to be vastly superior in every way. From its combat to sieges, diplomacy to AI, there are a lot of changes and additions to look forward to in the sequel. I particularly love the developer communication with this. Tailworlds Entertainment are steadfast in their thought process behind announcing a release date, stating essentially it's done when it's done and you'll get it when it's done. But the thing I'm highlighting here is that they haven't just said we're working on it so bye-bye. They've been willingly keeping people up to date through regular dev blogs, almost as if this was a crowdfunded project. So it's nice to see devs go out of their way just to say, yes, we know the wait is crap, but here's an insight to bide the time. Although if it doesn't come out in 2018, I swear I'll zombify everyone. And speaking of zombies, yes I know that was an obvious, deliberate and poor transition, but next up is State of Decay 2. Now I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Undead Lab's State of Decay. It was a game full of irritating flaws, yet one that I enjoyed playing a lot, half the time at least. However, State of Decay 2 looks to be a sequel that takes this series' great idea and executes it in a better way than previously. State of Decay 2 looks to be a more ambitious, slightly or a lot deeper title with the spit and polish the series really needed. One of my biggest gripes with the first game was its tedious and sometimes frustrating combat. That element in the sequel is hopefully improved among other things, as there is plenty of opportunity for State of Decay 2 to go further with existing ideas and refine them. One such aspect that appears to be more considerable is the base building. While it wasn't in the first and probably isn't in the second, a Minecraft style build mode, the base building in State of Decay was more fixed. However, that's not a bad thing and probably appeals to a larger audience that cares little for building in games. I look forward to that feature in particular, but also the apparently deeper character customization and creating leaders within your community, and also executing those not so enthusiastic about surviving. Hopefully the sequel will show that zombie games haven't become saturated, but that there are too many bad ones and that this is one of the good ones. Now of course a Telltale game is going to be on the list, they seem to do something to keep an eye on every damn year, but this especially is something I'll be counting on to be as excellent as the one that came before it. It is a sequel I've been waiting years for, and that is The Wolf Among Us Season 2. Yes, Bigby Wolf is finally returning in this continuation of the fabled episodic interactive Telltale prequel to the Fables comic book series, which are equally great if not better. The Wolf Among Us stands as one of Telltale's greatest titles, and though it's likely what needs to change gameplay wise won't change in the new series, I'll be honest and say that I'm struggling to manage my expectations for this because I expect it to be good. The narrative at least. It's unfortunate that apparently it won't solve the debatable cliffhanger the first season finished off with, but it'll be great to see another story full of the excellent variety of characters this universe spawns. Right, next up on the list is a game I think is worth watching for not only what it is, but the future of the devs behind it, and that is BioWare's latest project, Anthem. Now while I sort of boycott EA's published titles because, it's EA, what more do you need? I can't not have this on a watch list because it is something to keep an eye on. The game looks stunning and the concept behind it sounds interesting, and this could be BioWare's redemption title if you will, a game that shows what BioWare can really do, and one that presents a new beginning for them and their fans. Of course, as many will know, their previous series Mass Effect is one full of high praise, but also shambolic situations that led to its, more or less, failure. Now we have something that looks like it could be superior, but could also be just another open world game that feels empty, or a game that just isn't as good as it looks or sounds. It's hard not to think that likely when it comes to EA published titles, and thanks to recent events surrounding Mass Effect, BioWare made games. Suffice it to say, the studio has had its troubles with what appeared to be consistent staff turnovers, the challenges posed by the use of the Frostbite engine, overseas studio collaboration difficulties, and the rush to finish the game, to name a few. But here's hoping the development of Anthem is less turbulent, and though I don't have much care for this at this moment in time, it is a title I'll be watching with a sort of loose eye. Now another game that I don't actually care a great deal about thanks to statements and events surrounding Take-Two and Rockstar Games, despite the fact I like the first two titles that came before it, Red Dead Redemption 2. If you've watched some of my past videos, you may remember the disdain I have for Grand Theft Auto Online and its shark cards. Plus, my respect for Rockstar has dwindled over the years, and I have absolutely no love for Take-Two Interactive. That is why, or one of the reasons, what should have been something to be excited about isn't for me. Red Dead Redemption 2 looks fantastic, the narrative sounds promising, and I don't hold much doubt it'll be a good if not great game. However, thanks to the money generated from GTA Online shark cards, I am anticipating a greater focus on Red Dead's multiplayer component, and its likely shark card equivalent. To say none of that will impact the single player experience is a bit too optimistic in all honesty. Yes, there probably won't be purchasable single player cosmetics, but the resources poured into the online could have been useful if applied to the single player component. Over time, I've developed this gut feeling that those open world Rockstar games we love, GTA, Red Dead, and heaven forbid anything else, will slowly or perhaps quickly become shared world, almost MMO experiences where Take-Two can capitalise on microtransactions, which is evident they most certainly want to do going forward. With that said, I hold little excitement for Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's definitely worth putting on the radar. However, the lack of a PC version at this stage is quite annoying to say the least, so I hope it's good for those looking forward to it. So moving again to the indie side of things, next up is The Occupation, developed by White Paper Games, who made the eye-opening and very good Ether 1. Now definitely not something for everyone because this seems to be more about stealth, exploration and investigation. The Occupation is a first-person narrative-driven immersive simulation where you play as a whistleblowing journalist. After an attack left 23 dead on British soil, a controversial act that threatens the civil liberties of the British population, the Union Act, is coming to fruition. Players will have 4 hours to determine the outcome of the act and the future of the country in quite an interesting time. I like the premise and the setting for this, stealth looks good and I do like the art style White Paper seem to favour, but the more attractive part of this is that the actions and their consequences seem to play a huge role here, as what you do in the time that you have affects the overall outcome of the game. This seems to be a title that will bring your morality into question, as the developers describe the experience as one that will have you answer the question, do the means justify the ends? Or as they put it, is the cost of an extreme action outweighed by the cause of the greater good? Another thing I noticed about this is that it may be a case of getting caught, failing isn't the end of the line. I'm often thinking of how games could end that typical punishment of failure that is just simply loss of progress and move towards something different and better. So that'll be interesting to see if our failures really do become a part of the story. The only thing that disinterests me at this point is that I'm not big on stealth games or titles with stealth playing a sizable role in them. However, this looks to have some interesting mechanics that make things very dynamic, so this is definitely one to watch. To finish off the main list is something I really hope turns out well, partly because it has fairly big shoes to fill, and mainly because I backed the thing on Kickstarter, and that is the System Shock remake by Night Dive Studios. So in 2016, Night Dive took to Kickstarter to get funding for a remake of the fabled 1994 first-person action-adventure game System Shock. Well before the Kickstarter ended, Night Dive achieved their goal of $900,000 and went on to raise over $1.3 million. The remake's demo went down well with those that played it. It showed that with care, effort and time, people can make something decent and unique with Unity, and not just cheap standard Unity Store asset-filled games that are an insult to the industry. The demo was barely a taste of what the remake could be, and was impressive enough for me to want to throw money at this project. Now this is one of those titles where you can clearly see the passion behind it. Night Dive Studios have mainly been around to update and re-release old games. However, it seems the founder Stephen Kick and others in his team really wanted to remake the sci-fi classic. To be honest, this is one title I'll agree is an excellent idea to remake, considering how much is possible now that wasn't back in the 90s. However, though the demo for this was good, it's more up in the air on how it is now. In 2017, Night Dive announced that they'd be moving development from Unity to Unreal Engine 4. Understandably, that was a cause for concern for many people, but from what we can see of the game so far, it looks pretty damn good. The devs are not looking to change everything that was System Shock, but that doesn't mean they aren't making any additions and what they feel like necessary changes. For example, they aim to fix the level's layouts and add more story and areas to Citadel Station. The addition of more story is something I particularly look forward to, as none other than Chris Avallone is working on the project. Plus, for New Vegas fans out there, some of the devs that worked on that are involved too. As of now, the remake is shaping up to be a good investment, and I cannot wait to see more, and of course actually get my hands on it. So that's it for the main list. Now let's move on to some honourable mentions that I think are worth keeping on the very edge of your radar. So a new horror game that puts players in incredibly extreme conditions, and I'm surprised isn't quite the controversial title, is Agony. This sick, twisted, and those aren't criticisms, depiction of hell is great, and the game's idea of taking control of different bodies as you progress or in order to progress through the game is an interesting way to allow players to survive. However, I am skeptical as to how enjoyable this will actually be. Next is Quantic Dream's latest project, Detroit Become Human, another title that I think has been in these videos before, but is mainly an honourable mention because I have little confidence this will release anytime soon. It has a decent synopsis, an attracting idea in that there are supposedly many possible paths players can take in the various situations. The emphasis on player actions to the point where the littlest interaction could affect the overall outcome of a situation is something I wonder how successful it'll be. Will it be overwhelming or almost daunting, or highly appealing to warrant multiple playthroughs? Chances are it's the latter, but we shall see. And coming in next is Visage, a title from Sad Square Studios that was also successfully funded via Kickstarter in 2016. This, like quite a number of others actually, is promoting itself as the game to fill the void where the famous PT demo once sat. However, Visage, unlike others, seems to have depth in more than just the house it takes place in. It looks to be one hell of a creepy adventure, but I am reserving excitement for when it's ready and released. The game was delayed from 2017 to 2018, however the devs have stated the end is nigh. But the question is, the end as in the end of development to release, or the end of development because it's cancelled? Not to crap on the parade, I'm just saying. Next is Don't Nod Entertainment's action role-playing vampire game, Vampire. Again, this is another title that made it into these videos before, so I can't really say anything other than what I've already said. I like the way Don't Nod is thinking with this title, how they've created this system where we have the ability to choose whether or not to feed on the people surrounding us, thus making our decisions have an impact on the overall story. I'm very intrigued by the setting for the game, 1918 London during the Spanish flu pandemic, straight after the First World War. It may not be the title that fills the gap where Vampire the Masquerade's continuation should be, but due to a strange lack of them, I'm all for more vampire games. Yet, I don't seem to care a great deal about this anymore. Now a quick mention here is The Last of Us Part 2. The first game was fantastic, and I really like the darker tone number 2 seems to have. However, because I feel it's very unlikely we'll see it this year, it's not something I'd put on the main radar just yet. To finish off is Witchfire. This, surprisingly, is the next thing from the Astronauts, the devs behind the brilliant Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Revealed at the 2017 Game Awards, Witchfire is a dark fantasy first-person shooter that looks stunning. People who worked on Painkiller and Bulletstorm are also a part of this project, and all I can say at this moment in time, it is one to watch, but not too closely. Not just yet. We need a bit more information and gameplay. So that about does it for games to watch in 2018. Plenty of things to look forward to and keep a close eye on, but also a few things to note for later down the line. Of course, the year is just beginning and there may be more things to be revealed that release in 2018. Now let me know in the comments below, what are you looking forward to this year, and is there anything you'd recommend keeping an eye on that I haven't mentioned? Other than that though, hit the like button if you like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook. Links to those are at the bottom of the description. Anyways, that's all from me, so until next time, I'll see you soon.